They always called me the dumb one while my sister walked across the stage at Harvard, glowing with pride and promises of a Tesla and a $20 million mansion. I sat in the back, invisible, unheard. My dad toasted her future, completely dismissing me, until a stranger walked in, handed me an envelope, and whispered, "Now's your time. Show them who you really are." If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or humiliated by the people who were supposed to love you, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and stay with me. I'm about to tell you how I turned being the dumb one into something they'd never forget. I still remember that day with perfect clarity. The auditorium smelled like polished wood and expensive perfume. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating rows of proud parents. And there I was shrinking into the back row wearing the same dress I'd worn for 3 other family events that year. Invisible. My sister, Vanessa, was radiant. Harvard had given her everything: prestige, a full scholarship, and the family's undivided attention. She laughed, posed for photos, and everyone in the room, including my parents, worshipped her success like it was divine. And then came the speech. My father stood at the podium, clearing his throat, holding a glass of champagne. To Vanessa, he began, voice booming, "My brilliant daughter, you're destined for greatness. You will inherit everything: our Tesla, our $20 million mansion, and everything I've worked for." I felt it, the punch of insignificance. My chest tightened. My stomach sank. My throat was dry. I didn't even applaud. I couldn't. My sister, sensing my silence, glanced over, smirked, and whispered, "Typical." The words stung. They always had, since I was a little girl. My parents had mocked me for being slow, clumsy, or the dumb one at dinner tables, at family parties. Even during arguments, it was always Vanessa's achievements, in sharp contrast to my failures. Every grade I earned, every project I completed, was met with a disinterested nod or a condescending sigh. But that day, the humiliation reached its peak. And yet, amid the sting of rejection, a small, reckless ember of anger ignited. I clenched my fists under the table, nails digging into my palms. I wouldn't cry, I wouldn't beg for attention, but I would make them remember me. I was lost in this simmering storm of thoughts when a soft tap on my shoulder startled me. I turned, expecting a teacher or a fellow student, but it was a stranger, a man in a dark suit, impeccably calm, holding a plain envelope. "You don't know me," he said in a hushed voice, leaning close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath. "But you've been underestimated your whole life. Open this when you're ready. And remember, it's time to show them who you really are." I blinked at him. He smiled briefly and then vanished into the crowd, like smoke in sunlight. The envelope was heavy, almost sinister in its weight. Inside was a stack of papers, meticulously organized. At first glance, it looked like legal documents. My heart raced as I scanned them. There were contracts, business deals, and confidential filings, a network of investments, trusts, and companies that I hadn't known existed. And at the center, in bold letters, "Trusts and inheritance designated for you." My mind raced. I flipped through every sheet, disbelief warring with growing excitement. How had my life been invisible for so long, while my sister was paraded as the golden child? How had I been dismissed as dumb, when it turned out I had been the one quietly holding the keys to everything all along? I felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. My fingers shook. Sweat prickled at the back of my neck. This wasn't just a chance to win, it was a chance to make them feel, in a single devastating moment, the exact weight of being underestimated. I had to plan carefully, precisely. Revenge, I realized, is most satisfying when it's surgical, when it's earned and inescapable. For the next few weeks, I immersed myself in those documents, studying every clause, every loophole, every asset. I hired lawyers discreetly, built accounts, and set up legal contingencies, all under the radar. Vanessa continued living her dream, blissfully unaware that her supposed privileges were no longer untouchable. At home, my parents still laughed about her future, still called me clumsy or slow when I asked a simple question. My mother would say, "Don't strain yourself thinking too hard, honey. Leave the real work to Vanessa." Inside, my blood boiled, but externally, I smiled. I laughed politely. I nodded. I played the obedient, dumb daughter. If they thought I was powerless, they were about to discover how lethal patience could be. Every dinner, every party, every casual dismissal became fuel. I wrote down everything: the times they mocked me, the casual betrayals, the moments they humiliated me in front of others. Each note was a spark, a promise that I would not just win, but humiliate them with elegance and finality. And then came the perfect opportunity. It was the night of Vanessa's birthday. My parents had rented a grand hall, invited friends, colleagues, family, everybody who had ever cheered her accomplishments. Vanessa, of course, was the star. My role? Invisible, silent. I walked into that hall, envelope in my clutch. But tonight, I wasn't meek. Tonight, I was in control. I called my lawyer over, discreetly. "Everything is ready. Just execute the transfer now," I whispered. A nod, a few taps on a tablet, and it was done. Within moments, everything changed. Legally, undeniably, irrefutably. The mansion, the Tesla, the bank accounts, they were mine. Every document, every asset, every trust, carefully redirected. Vanessa, my parents, they had assumed everything was hers. But assumptions, I realized, are dangerous. I didn't announce it immediately. I waited. I let the subtle tension build. Guests mingled. Vanessa basked in her glory. Parents gushed over her. And then I smiled. "Dinner is served," my father said, raising a toast. I stood, glass in hand. "Actually," I said, voice calm but carrying across the hall, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. My parents froze. Vanessa tilted her head, eyebrows raised. I opened the envelope I'd kept close, pulled out the legal confirmation. All assets, trusts and accounts once thought designated for Vanessa are legally mine. The mansion, the Tesla, the investments, everything. Gasps, shattered faces. Vanessa's jaw dropped. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's knuckles whitened on the table. "You what?" my sister stammered. I smiled. Calm. Confident. "You believed I was dumb. You believed I couldn't manage, couldn't succeed, couldn't take control. Turns out, I was quietly learning, quietly preparing, and quietly winning. You never saw it coming, did you?" The room was silent. My parents' faces were masks of shock, disbelief, and something else, regret. I could see it in their eyes. They had underestimated me one last time. And this was perfect. No yelling, no tears, no chaos. Just calm, undeniable victory. Every humiliating word they'd ever said bounced back to them, invisible but potent. The people around us whispered, stared, and slowly started clapping, some out of shock, some in awe. I took a slow breath. Relief, satisfaction, and freedom washed over me. No more comparisons. No more belittlement. No more being the dumb one. I had taken control, not with rage, but with precision, patience, and strategy. Vanessa couldn't believe it. My parents couldn't believe it. And I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes life underestimates you. Sometimes those who mock and dismiss you think they're untouchable. But patience, intelligence, and careful planning can turn the tide. Revenge isn't always about anger, it's about justice, executed flawlessly. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or mocked, share your story in the comments. Hit that like button if you love a good tale of clever revenge. Subscribe for more stories where justice isn't just served, it's crafted with precision. And remember, sometimes the quietest person is the one you should never underestimate.